Magandang umaga po mga kaibigan sa isa na namang edisyon ng ating Tapatan sa Aristocrat. Pag-usapan natin yung current peace and order situation sa ating bansa at ano bang sitwasyon? Meron bang ano ba reaksyon ng pamahalaan sapagkat sinabi na ang Pilipinas ay pangsyam sa top 10 ng mga apektadong bansa ng terorismo. Ang sabi kasi yung upgrades daw hindi limitado sa Moody's, sa Standard and Poor's, saka sa ano pa yung isang credit rating agency? Fitch Ratings. Pati ka dun sa isang grupo sa Australia, nagkaroon tayo ng upgrade at sinasabing kasamang Pilipinas sa top 10. Actually, number 9 ngayon sa terorismo. Kaya pag-uusapan natin ngayon to. Terorismo nga ba yun? Ano ba nangyayari sa peace and order? We're joined today by Major General Domingo Tutaan, representing the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, si Ms. Teresita Ang-See, founding Chairperson ng Movement for the Restoration of Peace and Order, Commodore Rex Robles, co-founder ng RAM, si Architect Kuen Chua, ang Chairman ngayon ng MRPO, si Senior Superintendent Robert Po, at si Commodore Dante Jimenez ng VACC, and we also have with us Colonel Resty Padilla, ang nasa CMO, J7. So, simulan natin ang talakayan ngayon. General Tutaan, ano po ba ang sitwasyon kung terorismo pag-uusapan? Napakainit nito. Anong impact nito sa tourism? Anong impact nito sa darating na APEC? Please.
Thank you, Melo. No? Talagang magandang umaga sa lahat. Talagang malaki ang epekto ng reports of terrorism on our current peace and order and security situation. But this is, if we look at the Global Terrorism Index, we have to understand the context of the report itself on the matter. Now, let's from the AFP, let's look at it from the side of our internal peace and security operations. Doon sa Global Terrorism Report, it says there that 30% of the incidents are perpetrated by the CPP, NPA, NDF. And the rest are other threat groups, the BIFF, the ASG, which is involved technically in kidnap for ransom activities, which in a form, we could say, pwede nating sabihin part of terrorism because terrorism exacts fear sa populace, sa community. So, yan ang pinag-iinting namin ngayon sa AFP. Yung one is our coordination with the Philippine National Police in our support sa law enforcement operations. Because technically speaking, KFRs are law enforcement matters or law enforcement operations, which in the southern Philippines, especially in the Basulta area, the Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi area, doon prevalent ang ASG activities. Doon kami nagko-coordinate, especially with the PNP's Anti-Kidnapping Task Force based at in Basilan and Sulu, so that we can have a collusion of efforts to prevent this. Although there are incidents of kidnapping, very sensational. Yung iba, I'm talking about the recent the kidnapping incident regarding yung mga German nationals natin. Although we will never know how many incidents we have prevented. Kasi ang efforts namin with the PNP is basically target hardening, which is all preventive in nature. The other half of our efforts are all on the reaction pag may incident na nangyari. On the first phase, yung ating prevention, because probably of presence ng uniformed services, probably because of ongoing operations, probably because of ongoing civil-military operations, and more importantly, ongoing cooperation with the communities, then we could have prevented a lot of incidents on this. But then again, we will never get the numbers on that. But the thing is, kailangan kasi natin talaga na meron tayong bold effort, not only by the uniformed services, especially on terrorism. We must be one together as a people, as a country, against those who perpetrate terrorism.
Okay. But General, has it ever occurred to you that these terrorist groups are, hiding behind some influential Filipinos, say politicians?
Well, this could be, pwede natin matingnan na from one angle on that side. It may be true, it may not be true, but there are incidents on these things. And that is kailangan talaga na yung ating collective effort must be big. And we have civil society organizations and non-government organizations who are one with us on this. But I think we must have a calling as a people, as a country, to condemn all these acts. If you will look at the report in the Global Index, Terrorism Index, ang sinight nilang the worst terrorism incident is the incident in Cotabato perpetrated by the NPA, wherein 9 civilians were killed. Where is our nationwide outcry against that? None. Did we have a collective cry against condemning the perpetrators of this? Wala. I think that is one of the efforts that could probably enhance ongoing security operations. The public outcry. Kasi hindi na maganda eh. Security forces are there, soldiers are getting killed, policemen are getting killed on this, but there's no outcry against those who perpetrate. A clear example siguro is, look, when this Global Terrorism Index came out, lahat batikos on government, on security forces. I mean, in some reports that you could see. But there was never a report against or a statement against those who perpetrated terrorism. Sino ba dapat ang kontrahin natin? Yung terorismo, yung nag-project ng terrorism, o yung nagpre-prevent ng terrorism?
Okay.
So yun ang kuha natin siguro. Mas why tama yung sabi nyo. If ever they have merong-melo na influence man sila, coming from whatever sector, then let's take away that influence that they have. So that they will not have the feeling of impunity that they can just do this. Or they cannot have that, that they can get away with it. Let's go have a calling by us as a Filipino nation, as a people, against those who can. And again, let me emphasize, these are the groups that we have. 30% of that is the CPP-NPA. A good percentage is from the ESG and the BIFF.
Okay.
So, yun sana ang kuha natin. These are what we call the peace spoilers natin na pwede natin gawin. Now, on other criminalities, like especially on the KFR, ang PNP at saka ang AFP ay co-coordinate on that. And we also, of course, coordinate with other COs, NGOs as regards this in order to curb or to prevent the occurrence of these incidents, especially the kidnap for ransom incidents.
Thank you very much. From the Philippine National Police, are you of the opinion that poverty-related ang pagtaas ng krimen sa Pilipinas? Senior Superintendent po.
Thank you, Mel, at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Definitely, Mel, poverty or the need for money is one of the driving force for much of our crime nationwide. Looking at our crime statistics, we have around 540,000 crimes committed as of September. And if you look at it, 90% of this total involves robbery and theft. So kung makikita mo, itong robbery and theft natin, kung robbery kasama dyan yung tutukalawit, istribugang, snatching, and then sa theft
Riding in
naman,
tandem.
pickpocket, riding in tandem. So ibig sabihin, you look at it and 90% ng crime volume natin involves such crimes which are financially driven crimes. So tinitingnan natin lagi ang krimen sa ating bansa, no? At lagi nating sinasabi, for a crime to be committed, there should be 3 elements that is present. Ang unang-unang sinasabi natin is the means, yung pamamaraan, yung motive, yung motibo na binabanggit natin is yung pera, and the opportunity. Kaya ngayong Pasko, sinasabi na, dumarami bang magnanakaw pagka Pasko at dumadami ang krimen? Not necessarily. What we are saying is the opportunity is there for those with means and motive. Yung means naman na sinasabi natin sa street crimes, binabanggit nila, andito yung dugo-dugo, laglag barya, bubble gum, dura, etc. These are means. These are means for criminals to perpetrate their criminal intent. So, ang opportunity naman, itong pagdagsa natin ng holiday season, kasi dumadami talaga ang namimili lahat. So, the opportunity is there. So, yes, I can say that poverty is one of the driving force for crimes in our country.
Yes, there was a study made by the National Statistics Coordination Board about a year ago which said that crimes could be traced to inequality, not necessarily poverty, because the poorest regions like ARMM listed the lowest crimes, and Bicol too. However, Metro Manila, where inequality is high, had the highest crimes. Pero we will talk about it much later. Pero with all this situation going on, anong reaction ng grupo na Movement for the Restoration of Peace and Order? You founded this several years ago, Madam Teresita Ang-See. And it seems we still have the same problems today. Yes, please.
Yeah, yung dalawang grupo namin, the Movement for Restoration of Peace and Order, Architect Chua is now the chairman, and yung isa pang grupo na tumututok sa reforms in the criminal justice system is the Citizens Action Against Crime. So, ngayon, MRPO ang medyo active, ang talagang very, very active, no? Since 2003. The MRPO is now made up mainly of kidnap for ransom victims. Ilan na lang kami na hindi victims, no? So it's a very potent support group. So reaction ko lang muna doon sa tungkol doon sa terrorism, no? I'm siguro the person who is very much against calling kidnap for ransom people, the Abu Sayyaf, as terrorists. You're just raising their status. Even the CPP, NPA, pag nangidnap sila, they are hoodlums, they are criminals, period. Branding them as terrorists and branding their acts as terrorism is just raising, elevating their status to their funders abroad. No? Itong Germans na to, nagkagulo because US declared war on the ISIS. Nasabit tayo, inelevate naging terrorism, kaya ayaw pumayag na hindi magbayad ng ransom for the Germans. Imagine what it will cost all the foreign nationals here if their foreign embassies will all pay ransom for them. No? Kaya, and then branding it as an act of terrorism when it's a simple act of criminality. Nangidnap sila for ransom. Wala namang ideology involved dyan eh. Ang involved dyan talaga, pera ang kailangan nila. Kaya hindi nila ni-release hanggat hindi makuha yung pera.
So ito yung bagong cottage industry ngayon.
Kasi you will encourage even more of those cases because of what you did. No? And elevating it and making it very popular and showing that crime pays and pays very lucratively. Diba? Kaya yun yung isang dapat siguro i-correct natin na bakit nire-reduce yung mga Abu Sayyaf, ASG kidnapping to terrorism acts. No? Nababawasan yung statistics sa kidnap for ransom kasi sa kanila, that's act of terrorism.
Okay.
Ang dami ng kidnapping sa South Cotabato. No? To talk about prevention, nung nakidnap yung isang very prominent businessman doon.
Yung mall owner sa Cotabato City at sa North Cotabato.
We had a meeting at that time with the late Jesse Robredo, no? At 11 p.m. Nung na-release kasi yung family, immediately they wanted to fly to Singapore the next morning. So pagkalipad nila from Cotabato to Manila, si Secretary Robredo flew from Cebu to Manila just to debrief that victim,
The family,
no? And yun na nga, no? Ang hiniling nila, please ask the Marines to resume their patrol sa Cotabato, which Secretary Robredo did, ano, and asked for that, no? Kahit na DILG siya. And nag-stop for a long while, no? 2 years na walang masyado. Meron, pero hindi pareho dati na wala nang nagbubukas ng tindahan doon. all the transactions are done by phone. No? Imagine, yung sinasabi mo, economy. Imagine the impact on the economy when these things happen. Nobody dares to open their shops. They do their transactions through phone and then deliver. Walang nagbubukas ng tindahan because of fear. But for the prevention, the Marines were very helpful in assigning patrols there. Yun yung naging prevention. Kasi admit natin, kulang na kulang talaga yung tauhan ng PNP to be doing that. No? So whether we call it terrorism, whether we call it kidnap for ransom, it does not matter to us, Melo. Statistics, we should never quarrel about that because behind of each of those numbers are shattered lives of people. Tanungin niyo si Kuen na 17 days na hostage. Imagine yung life mo. He's a kidnap for ransom victim. Sabi ko nga, di ba? All of them now are kidnap for ransom victims. Yung mga buhay ng tao na nasisira because of kidnapping, kahit na sabihin nila sa figure namin, 50, sabi nila 42, it doesn't matter. Whether it's 20 only or it's 50, it's still victims. It's still life of people.
Okay.
So kailangan talaga yung vigilance and the government pouring its resources into getting more personnel out in the streets. I heard that it's now a move of the Chief PNP, no, to reduce the people in Camp Crame. Nag-hire sila ng security guards to man the gates so that the police can be out in the streets. Because I've always emphasized, you don't need 9,000 people inside Camp Crame and Bikutan. You need them out in the streets.
Hindi kikita yung kantin sa Krame pag inalis mo yung mga pulis doon. But anyway, thank you. Dante, yung inyong mga issue sa crusade against violence, sa VACC, Volunteers Against Crime and Corruption, mukhang yun pa rin yung issue nung araw, nung itatag nyo yan. Di ba nagbago?
Well, good morning.
Morning.
Sa naman narinig ko sa mga spokesman ng AFP at PNP and my fellow NGO member of the community, it really seems that, and not only seems, mukhang talagang there is really the clear-cut deterioration of peace and order nationwide. And we confirm this sa side naman namin na nagmamando ng mga korte. I think the bottom line here really is the criminal justice system is very slow in the dispensation of justice. The bottom line here is how you give justice to the victims. Take note, yesterday, while we were all engaged with Manny Pacquiao, but the anniversary of the Maguindanao massacre was being commemorated in that part of in that part of Mindanao, and of course we are one of those who are helping legally victims, some of the victims there, and we said that this just proves that it will not only take how many years but maybe decades. Because the justice system here favors more the criminals. This indicates. Kayo mga nasa law enforcement at kami sa community, biktima tayo ng sistema. A drastic system has really to be introduced in this country where all decisions comes from the top, from the president, from Malacanang. Strategies yan. Strategy, mga tactical, whatever it is. Papasukan pa ng politika. Kaya ang crime fighting sa atin dito, napasukan na ng politika. And of course, when you talk of politics here, you talk of money.
Okay.
So, obviously, kahit na anong mga hindi lang yung mga pusayap na yan, mga bandidong yan, kundi mga iba't ibang mga sindikato ng krimen, droga. Just this morning, I'm sorry I was late, we recognized the NBI for confiscating one of the most sophisticated equipment found in Kamiling, Tarlac, at the very place of the President and the Secretary of National Defense. Tarlac.
Ano nakuha?
3 billion worth of drug paraphernalia Now, of course, ito'y talagang effort ng both the NBI, ISAP, okay, even the PNP at ng PIDEA. But you see, it's really a matter of political will. Sa sistemang ito, you're talking here of a political system that is central masyadong Manila. Kung ano sabihin ng Manila, stop ang Mindanao and Visayas. That is the problem.
Okay.
Kaya, Melo, alam mo, kami kasi, lamang kami ng korte. Laging dinadaing ng mga biktima. Eh bakit ganito ang sistema natin? Masyadong pumapabor ang justice system sa mga kriminal. You always allow. Kaya that's why yung topic mong peace and order and terrorism will grow and grow and grow. Okay, statistics. The PNP, I understand, released an statistics 2013. We computed that there are 40 killings per day. You're talking of murder and homicide. Okay? Hindi pa yung mga street crimes na yan. I don't know ngayong taong to, so yung reported ni Colonel Po, kung ilan na per day. Siguro bumaba naman. But you see, it just shows na kung ang Pilipinas ay hindi archipelagic country, divided 7,100 islands, siguro civil war na tayo.
Okay.
Okay, so lastly, just to finish my opening statement, talagang dapat talaga drastically change natin ang criminal justice system. Kami sa NGOs, ayun lang mabibigay namin sa inyo, recognition and observation. But please do something about this.
Okay. Isang tanong, isang sagot. Yes or no? Ang kailangan mo ba si General Palparan? Oh.
Let's not talk about personalities here, Mel.
Hindi, yung approach na gano'n.
No. Let's not talk of... ang aking sinasabi dito, okay, gusto mong marinig sa amin?
Sige.
Ulitin namin ulit.
Sige.
Ibalik natin death penalty sa mga heinous crimes.
Okay. Well said. Pakinggan natin si Architect Kuen Chua. You were once a victim of kidnapping for 17 days?
Opo, Camilo. Bali, I'm a victim way back 2008 for 17 days by a kidnapping for ransom group. Malaking pasalamat ko sa PNP sa laking tulong nila during that time. Pacer pa ang pangalan ng AKG. Ako po ay naligtas ng Pacer during that time.
Okay. Paano? Ano yung circumstance? Paano kayo na-kidnap? Hindi kaya love triangle yan, tulad na nababalita nung araw ng mga dahilan ng kidnapping?
Hindi po. Usually, ang kidnapping sa malalim na analysis, meron usually tipster. No? Sila ang nag-fish ng information at binibigay sa grupo na gumagawa ng ganitong klaseng krimen. Itong last September 3, nagkaroon kami ng forum MRPO sa Kaisa Headquarter. In-address namin ni Secretary Rojas ang kriminalidad. Kasi sa nakaraan na June, July, August, medyo bahagya tumaas ang kidnapping cases. At malaking pasalamat namin dahil sa kaagad aksyon ng Secretary Rojas, ito ay natugunan ng pansin at by this September, October, talagang nag-nosedive na ang kidnapping cases.
Uy, congratulations. Maganda at nabanggit ninyo yan. Dahil akala ko, sabi ni Tess kanina, Secretary Robredo attended to the concerns of people. It's nice to know Secretary Rojas is doing his best. Pero let me ask you, ano ang inyong ipapayo sa mga mamamayan who are potential kidnap victims?
Ang mapapayo namin sa potential victims na kailan they have to have a simple lifestyle, wag maging showy sa kanila and they have to be very careful with their social people na kinahalubiro nila. At ang social media ay kailangan medyo i-limit sa paggamit. Ang sa amin payo sa mga naging biktima, collective effort talaga po yun. Kailan ang biktima, MRPO, PNP nagtutulungan at kailan magsampa ng kaso para matigil ang itong mga krimen na ito.
Doon po sa mga kinasuhan ninyo, nasa ng estado yung mga usapin?
Sa awan ng Diyos, sa mga nasampa namin kaso, sa 100% talagang na-accuse po sila.
Na-accuse pero hindi pa nahahatulan?
Majority na hatulan, pero may mga few cases talaga, naghintay pa rin kami ng hustisya. Just like we have one case na Eunice Chuang, 14 years na po namin hinihintay ang hustisya, wala pa rin ang promulgation, and despite of several times of delay ng decisions.
Yeah. Can we hear from Commodore Rex Robles? You were with the armed forces before. How do you look at all these things reported today in the media?
Kasi nag-focus lang ako sa terrorism. Kasi right now, we're talking about two main areas, criminality and terrorism. And there is an overlap, no? But I would address terrorism lang kasi ang criminality nandiyan na yan and before, ano na yung PNP approaches dyan, nakaset na. Pero ang terrorism is dynamic, it is different. Nung unang panahon, nung nasa intelligence ako, ano lang ito urban guerrilla lang ito Yung Tupamaro sa Uruguay, they decided to hit soft targets. Instead of hitting base camps, they hit mga supermarkets. Darating ang, halimbawa, ang ambassador ng US, they will hit 6 supermarkets at the same time. And thus, they get media coverage. Yun lang noon yun lang. And it developed into a terrorism where soft targets, which means walang kalaban-laban, binabanatan ng mga malalakas para lang makuha ang atensyon ng media. Pero right now, I have to stop and ask muna, sino ba itong mga tao na nagka-classify sa atin? Marurunong ba ito o gawa-gawa lang nila? Kasi if you are a classifier that is worth your salt, you should publish the basis of your data. Halimbawa, bakit ko kinlassify na ang Pilipinas number 9? Number 10 yung top 10 siya. Anong ibig sabihin ng top 10? Kailan ka ba, kabuti ka ba na surface kahapon o matagal ka na ba? Kung matagal ka na, anong batting average mo? Anong basis mo for terrorism? Kasama bang criminality dyan? Kung kasama, bakit? Marunong ka ba talaga? Sino bang tao dyan behind you? Yun muna ang tanongin natin bago ako mag-react sa mga sinasabi nila kasi I think we are not really worse off than other countries. Talagang lahat may problema sa criminality. But sa terrorism, ibang laro yan. And the media might be falling into the trap that ISIS wants. ISIS wants people to be afraid of terrorism. So, mayroon silang mga ranking. Pati yung ranking, kasama yan sa media propaganda. Why are these people suddenly coming out of the woodwork? Yun ang ko. But having said that, there are areas in terrorism that we can address and I can talk about it siguro later. But I submitted a paper nung nagkaroon kami ng investigation sa Oakwood. Nakita ko na the President had about $1.2 billion pesos na intelligence funds. So nag-propose ako ng realignment para lumakas ang ating PNP, lumakas ang ating intelligence, at lumakas yung ating International Terrorism Office. I can talk about that later, but I submitted that. I don't know what happened, but I suppose still the President now has not only the same but even more access to so-called intelligence funds. Intelligence funds kasi yellow receipt lang ang katapat nun Walang auditing. No audit yan. Halimbawa, sakay ako ng taxi o kumain ako sa Manila Hotel, 3,000 pesos. Pipirmahan ko yan, yellow receipt. Cleared na yan. Hindi titingnan ni Hinares. Unless Hinares...
At ng COA.
Wala siya. You can go to the SND, Secretary of National Defense. Secretary of National Defense has to approve the investigation. If the Secretary of National Defense will say it cannot be investigated because of
the nature of the operation,
confidentiality, wala ka na. So, magkano bang pera ng gobyerno na nasa yellow receipt lang?
Ayan.
Magkano ang pera ni Noy na nasa yellow receipt? Dapat malaman natin yon.
Ay, malalaman natin. Kumbaga sa comics, abangan ang susunod na kabanata. Pero, katulad niyan, yun yung ating mga terorista sinasabi, no? Meron ba talagang mga banyagang nagsasanay sa kanila? Yan ba, dinadala sa abroad? Dahil during the 90s, 15 Filipinos were allegedly sent to Pakistan to become human bombs. Pero pagdating ng practicum, walang gusto mag-volunteer, so they were all sent home. Ano pong ating impormasyon?
Well, now, at the present, I don't think meron yan mga. There will be probably foreigners who would support or provide assistance. But these are not sanctioned by any country, so to speak, on this matter. If it is done also because he's a fellow. I like to let's say, foreigners from the Jemaah Islamiyah. They help out because they're of the same nature of the thing na ginagawa nila. But Melo, if I may, just before we continue, I'd like to also support yung statement kanina ng MRPO, especially ni Ma'am Tess, is on the regarding yung not elevating yung stature ng mga criminals of this nature. Yan nga yung sinasabi natin. I think I agree with Commodore Robles who conducted this study and categorized them to be such. So there has to be an explanation of some sort so that we will know kung ano talaga yung naging basihan ng study. But suffice it to say na yan ang nakikita natin, kaya natin na-equate yung kanilang actions. I would speak most especially because the Armed Forces of the Philippines is on internal peace and security as regards the CPP-NPA. Diyan natin nakikita that kasi ang dami nagsasabi, yung sinasabi ni Tess kanina na they get foreign funding from nakakakuha yan kasi of the thinking na they are an insurgent group. Pero hindi. They're involved in criminal acts like extortion. An insurgent will bomb or burn a cell site, let's say, because they want to disrupt the telecommunication facility in this area. Will destroy a tractor or a fertilizer boom simply because they want to disrupt the food produced in the area or probably prevent the construction of road networks. That is what an insurgent will do. Tingnan natin, ito ba sinunog nila yung cell site dahil they want to? Hindi, dahil hindi nagbayad. Extortion. Yung fertilizing boom, sinunog nila hindi dahil they want to prevent food produced. Kasi hindi nagbayad ng extortion. Yan yung sinasabi natin na we have to have a common aspiration as a people against these things. Kasi nalalaiken ngayon, makikita natin ngayon, na yung actions nila are not for a cause. It's not for an ideology.
It's for a cost.
Cost, C-O-S-T.
Yeah.
Oo.
Okay.
An illegal cost. But who do you hear saying that?
Yeah, pero
Yun ang sinasabi na. And I agree with it. Let's not elevate their stature, these threat groups, into something up there, recognized internationally, let's not do that. Yan yung sinasabi ko kanina. We have to have a collective public outcry on this. Okay. Not only security forces, not only government, but the whole nation on that.
Okay.
A grenade throwing incident way back in a few years ago in Davao wherein civilians sa perya tinapon yung granada.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Then after that, I think there were 13 civilians injured, about 2 or 3 are killed, and may mga bata pang kandon. Anong public outcry? Kasi may sundalo daw dun sa perya.
So yung sundalo naging magnet.
Parang ang point natin doon is, why can't we blame the person who perpetrated the crime? And that is, I think, one of the aspects that we would like to do. Our civil-military operations is, under Colonel Padilla, is what we're trying to get the community, the public, in order to be involved on this. We have organizations like the organizations that we have, MRPO, the VACC, the CAAC, andun yon. But again, let's heighten the consciousness of the public on this so that mahihinto yan. One of the aspects that would be a big help on that is yung pag-condemn ng mga acts na to.
Okay.
That are not cause-oriented or that are not ideologically motivated but criminally motivated for the love of getting easy money, illegal money. Siyempre, pag merong kang truck that fertilizer boom that costs 7 million to buy, pag trineten kang, bigyan mo ako ng 20,000 pesos every month, kung hindi, susunugin ko yan.
Okay.
People would be weak on that. And yun ang kailangan natin na tulungan dyan. It's a shared responsibility of some sort. But sino ba ang may gusto ng peace and order? Tayong lahat. Sino ba ang may gusto against terrorism? Tayong lahat. So everybody of us has a role. But iba-iba. Iba ang role namin as AFP, iba ang role ng PNP as a law enforcement agency, iba ang role ng CSOs, but every Filipino, every Juan de la Cruz or Juana de la Cruz has a role on this. Not exactly yung fighting directly or but we have to have a condone. Yan ang kailangan natin na buuin in a manner of speaking to condemn these organizations. Isipin mo like the NPA, Melo, 40 years na yan na naandyan, 46 ata, 47 years. Hindi naman sila mananalo. They cannot topple down government. They cannot defeat the armed forces of the Philippines. But they just cause along. Why? Money.
Okay.
Ang laki ng extortion nilang nakukuha.
Sige po.
Okay.
Bago natin buksan yung ating floor for the media, I'd like to ask Senior Superintendent Po and Colonel Padilla and Commodore Rex Robles, how has technology helped government curb crime and terrorism? Because while you have devices to help you, chances are the other side may also be using this. I remember receiving a call from Car Roger, may he rest in peace. One time, sabi niya, pakitawag mo naman sa Smart, sira yung cell site sa Tagkawayan. Wala kaming komunikasyon sa tropa. Sabi ko, paano ko kakausapin yung Smart? Hindi, sabihin mo lang na maraming uuwi sa Undas, sa Bicol at sa Bisaya. Walang contact. So, dapat ayusin. How has technology helped you curb crime?
Masasabi ko dyan, technology cuts both ways sa amin. Unang-una, sa parte ng mga pulis, ang technology ngayon, ang mga pulis natin ngayon ay alerto and on their toes. Minsan, may mga pulis tayo na medyo tatamad-tamad at nagbabalak. May mga ilan lang dyan na nagbabalak kung masama. Hindi na basta nakakagawa ng kabulastugan or minor infractions. Because we have a community or citizenry with technology at their hands. Makita mo lang dito sa EDSA, yung road rage sa mga civilian na nagkaroon ng altercation. Nakuha kagad ng video and it went viral. And another is yung police natin sa Quezon City na may hinarang na videohan. It went viral. So, it cuts both ways. Ang mga police natin ngayon ay natututong dumaan sa tamang landas. On the part of criminals, ang isang technology na ginagamit ng pulis natin ay tinatawag nating GIS, Geographical Information System. Ang technology na ito ay nagiging basihan ng kapulisan, lalong-lalo sa Metro Manila, para ma-monitor o malaman itong mga lugar natin sa Metro Manila, lalong-lalo na, kung saan madalas ang krimen and kung anong mga krimen ang nangyayari sa isang partikular na lugar. So, pagka ito ay ating napag-alaman based on concrete data, doon nagtutuon ng pansin ang mga kapulisan natin para ang crime-prone areas and specific crimes are really addressed. Okay. So, ito po ang ating mga nakikitang tulong ng technology. And one last part is through technology, nakapagre-reklamo na rin ang ating mga kababayan sa ating 117 na minsan ay
may sumasagot na sa 117. Mabuti naman.
Pero ang
hallelujah,
pinakamaganda dyan is yung text 2920 and other numbers na pwede silang mag-complain. So, ibig sabihin, technology is being used both ways.
There was a time kasi may problema yung 117
Hanggang ngayon po may problema. Kaya nga ang ang focus ng ating police ngayon, I think the SILG is pushing for a new system, including Chief PNP, for a new system in which complaints can be addressed more efficiently. Ano ibig sabihin nito? On the draft board, ang sistema na pag ang isang complaint ay halimbawa manggagaling sa Valenzuela, pagtanggap pa lang ng complaint on our side, alam na namin nanggagaling sa Valenzuela. Pagdampot pa lang ng complaint. So, we can direct the police assistance immediately to Valenzuela. So, ibig sabihin, hindi pa nagsasalita yung nagre-reklamo, alam namin nanggagaling sa Valenzuela yung reklamo. So, specific na yung place of complaint. Pagtanggap pa na ng tawag, alam na namin. And this will be similar to parang call centers. Ang tao namin, pero yung similar yung system sa call centers, 24/7.
Okay.
So yun po ang ating lahat ng complaints papasok dito, whether what kind of complaints, tapos pina-farm out natin sa specific areas or jurisdiction.
Well said. Thank you very much. Colonel Resty Padilla, ano ang pakinabang ninyo sa technology?
Unang-una po, nais kong batiin lahat ng nandito. Magandang umaga po. At, bago ko simulan yung sagot sa iyo, Melo,
Yes, please.
nagpapasalamat lang ho ako on behalf of the whole armed forces sa ating mga matatapang at magigiting na kababayan na nandito ngayon, ka Dante, Jimenez, si Ms. Ang-See, kayo po sa MRPO, architect, na nandyan kayo na nagsisimula ng hopefully mag-cascade na public support para sa ating mga naka-uniformadong tao sa kapulisan at saka sa kasundaluhan. At hopefully, pagka naging aware po ang ating kababayan na kailangan natin ng tulong nila, dadami pa yung mga uri nyo.
Opo.
So, yan po ang isa sa mga potential na maging solusyon. Regarding technology po, malaki, it cuts both ways. Katulad nga po ng sabi ni Chief Superintendent po.
Yeah.
Nakakatulong sa kalaban, nakakatulong din po lalo sa gobyerno. Pero let's emphasize and highlight how it can help government. Unang-una, sa transparency. Kung katulad ho ng ibang government offices, ang AFP, kung kayo ho ay magmemiyembro sa Facebook, nakikita nyo po lahat na aktibidades na ginagawa namin. So makikita nyo po kung relevant ang inyong armed forces at ginagawa niya ang tama, at makakapag-comment kayo kung kami nasa tamang landas. So, immediate ho yan. And hopefully, yung ating gobyerno nag-approve na po kahapon sa Senado o sa Kongreso ng 3 billion seed capital para dumami ang public domains, mga Wi-Fi areas na ang mga kababayan natin pwede mag-post. So, tulad ho ng ginagawa ng kapulisan, pag ang ating mga kababayan ay highly involved at halos lahat, meron na hong telepono ngayon, either through text o sa internet o posting sa kanilang mga social media accounts, nakukuha ho namin ang feedback at nakakapag-react kami kung may nakikita silang mga suspicious-looking characters. Kasi yung usapan ho natin sa terorismo at kriminalidad, nagsisimula po at na-prevent pag ang komunidad natin ay aktibong nagre-report at tumutulong na padamihin ang mata ng kapulisan at ng kasundaluhan sa pagmamatyag sa mga taong hindi dapat naandun sa mga public places.
Okay.
Kasi isa po yun sa mga dapat nating i-prevent eh. Kung tayo ay maagap, walang mangyayaring ganon. Tulad mga pag-agap sa pagtingin ng mga suspicious bag sa isang public terminal, makakakat natin ho yan, mapiprevent natin at hindi na magiging profitable sa ating mga binabantayan. So sa kalaban naman po, alam naman natin na madaming gumagamit ng panibagong teknolohiya ngayon para mapagpatibay nila ang kriminal nila na aktibidades. Tulad na lang ho nung isang linggo, may mga foreigners na nasabat na nagmamatyag sa mga ATM. Easy money ho kasi. So hindi lang ho Pilipino ang gumagawa nito, sinasabi ko sa inyo. May iba hong foreign na tourist na pumupunta dito kasi gullible ho ang Pilipino. Madali hong maganda ho ang kalooban ng Pilipino. Tandaan niyo po yan.
Madali raw magoyo Pilipino.
Hindi ho sa madaling magoyo kasi very friendly ho tayo. Very friendly. Very friendly ho talaga tayo. Pero isa ho sa nakikita ko dyan, kaya tayo tinitake advantage ng karamihan. Pero isa hong makakapag-equalize niyan is dahil sa teknolohiya, kung tayo ho ay may access sa technology, lalo na ho pag nabukas na yung mga public domain worth 3 billion, Yung mga kababayan natin na walang access sa eskwelahan, pwede ho nating bigyan ng edukasyon na hindi kailangan pumunta sa eskwelahan. Kasi traffic na ho, mahirap na, kulang ang eskwelahan natin. Pero kung ang public domains, lalo na sa mga sitio na binabantayan natin, sa mga baryo, marireach ng internet at mapapabilis natin ang ating broadband na connection, yung education ho, tulad na nangyayari ngayon sa buong mundo, may tinatawag na iUniversity. Libre ho yun. Mag-download lang ho kayo ng gusto nyong kurso. Mapag-aaralan nyo ho kung anong gusto nyo mapag-aralan. Kung ang Pilipino ho, maging accessible sa ganyang pamamaraan, ma-educate ho natin sila, magiging aware sila, at hindi sila magiging gullible.
Okay.
So, yun lang ho ang ano. At
Thank you very
tumutulong ho
much.
kami sa AFP sa paggawa nun.
Opo. Commodore, bago tayo dumako rito sa kabilang panig sa mga civil society organizations.
Banggitin ko lang na about this time last year, tinira ang New York. In one day only, in the span of about 2 hours, tinira ng sindikato, nakanakaw sila ng mga ATM numbers, tumira sila in about, I don't know, 50, 60 outlets. They were able to gather more than $50 million.
Really?
In less than 2 hours. I even quote you on a lower number kasi hindi ko na maalala. Pero alam ko talagang lumaki ang mata ko nung nakita ko. If that can be done in New York, it can be done in the Philippines kasi it's more fun here. It's more fun here. It can be done in the Philippines and even on a larger scale. Kaya sa akin lang naman, in the meantime, ang ATM ko, konti lang. Dati, 1,000, ngayon, 100 na lang.
Okay.
Okay, yun lang.
Thank you. Yes, madam. Technology and criminality and terrorism.
Yeah, kami siguro the first witness, no, doon sa criminality cuts both ways, pero hindi naman natin pwedeng i-reveal paano kung ano yung kaya nating ipang-counter. But
Papa.
most important, sa mga kidnap for ransom victims namin, the big improvement in a scale of 1 to 10, I will say 8 was because it doesn't pay lucratively anymore. Kasi nga, ini-empower namin yung victims not to pay a huge ransom because it means logistics for even more kidnapping. Dati siguro, baka ang ano nila is maliliit na cellphone, naging smartphone. Sasakyan nila siguro dati is yung maliliit na sasakyan. Ngayon, nakakabili na ng Montero, Prado, mas mabilis kaysa sa police yung mga sasakyan. Because yung binabayad mo ransom, yun ang ginagamit, no, to buy more logistics and technology. Number 2,
May capital din. Nangangapital na.
Kapital yan
Okay.
kapital. Number 2, yung concern kasi ng community. Yung sinasabi na i-report ninyo agad. Yung mga nangyari recently sa eskwelahan, sa mga Chinese schools, no? Mga tricycle driver, kinukuha yung mga bata, tapos iikot ng ikot, hihinga ng ransom yung parents. Siguro pang-5, Pilipino yung victim na bata bago nag-report. Kaya galit na galit kami. Yung pala 5 na yung mga nauna na mga Chinese kasi ang mga parents na hindi nag-report. Eh sabi namin, buti na lang walang nangyari dito sa mga bata. Yung mga parents na nauna, lahat nagbayad, no? From 5,000 to about 20,000. Imagine next time yan, nako, madali palang pera to. Next time magiging 20,000 na to 100,000. Wala kasi nag-report. Yung sinabi kanina ni Architect Chua, the help of Secretary Rojas, no? 3 kasi ang challenges na pinost namin sa kanya during our September 3 forum. So 2.5 na-solve na, nahuli yung mga most wanted na gusto naming mahuli. And this is through the help of the community. Kasi nga, alam naman nila kung saang barangay, bigla maraming strange people. Yung kaso namin against Dennis Roldan, nalaman namin yan dahil yung kapitbahay tumawag na, bakit merong bata dito, ang taba-taba, ang puti-puti, iyak ng iyak, uwi niyo na ako. Bago namin nalaman, andun pala sa safe house na yon, no? So yung mga community, be involved. Kasi as architect always say, evil triumphs when good men do nothing. Maraming kaming mga kaso, si Betty C. napatay noong 2003. Imagine that, yung kidnappers niya had kidnapped 15 other victims before. Hindi sana umaabot sa kamatayan kung nagko-cooperate yung mga ibang naging victims.
So, yun yung mga sinasabi natin na hindi naman one-sided ang pulis. Tayo nga, sinasabing pilar ng criminal justice system. We have to do our part. Hindi pwedeng ipagsawalang bahala kung may nangyayaring mga krimen sa paligid ninyo.
Okay. Mabuti po, nabanggit niyo yan. Dante, technology, criminality, and terrorism, how do you look at it without necessarily opening healed wounds, no? Yung kapatid niya nasawi dahilan sa party line, right? I remember that. May drug syndicate doon sa party line, ni-raid ng pulis, pinagdudahan yung kapatid niya, yun ang binaril. How do you look at all this?
Well, reaction dun sa technology, tama yon. Nabanggit ko nga kanina, di ba? Mas advanced ng technology ng mga sindikato, lalo na sa drugs, where 6 Chinese nationals were arrested, no? Ito yung maganda ron, may na-arrestong 6 nag-inject. Okay, mga ano to, manufacturers to. Now, kaya kanina, I was talking with Director Mendez and talagang inamin nila na kailangan talaga dagdagan ng technology ang ating mga investigators, like the PNP, the military. Dagdagan nyo ng pera to. Siguro yung 1.2 billion na intelligence fund sa Commodore Rex, ilipat na to sa just sa technology. Kasi dapat ang law enforcers mas ahead, mas nangunguna kaysa doon sa mga sindikato na makikita mo yung kinonfiscate nila sa Tarlac. Modern na modern, 100 kilos per day ang pwedeng maiproduce na shabu. Imagine that. So, sa Pampanga, nagkaroon din kayo ng raid doon, 4 billion worth. Ang tanong ko lang kasi, walang mga nahuli. May nahuli ba doon? Nakakawala ata lahat o pinakawalan? So,
Hindi ko alam yun.
Hindi. Gusto ko lang i-post kay Colonel po, and then mamaya siguro sagutin niya. Kasi, importante dito, no? Mas advanced dapat ang mga law enforcers sa technology. And I really support that. We support that. Kami sa mga NGO siguro, during the Senate inquiry, kay General Purisima, kay Senator, from the Destiny Senator po. We support, sabi namin, taasan ang sweldo ng mga police, mga ehente, mga prosecutors, military, judges, justices, at mga into mobilization, mga equipment. Yun lang naman, dapat taasan ang kanilang budget kaysa rin yung budget ng mga politiko.
Okay. You said it well. Kampi tayo dyan. We have questions from the floor.
Good morning po, Jerry Kibilan. I'd like to address my question to the most senior PMA graduate here, but before that, with due respect to Melo, I'd like to share something about technology cause and effect.
Sige po.
5 years ago, I was enjoying my time with my family in Cape May with a nice bed and breakfast. We're having breakfast with Americans, and all of a sudden, Maguindanao massacre. My God, I was shaken. These Americans was pointing at me. Okay, at any rate, what happened is, did you not see Pacquiao won the fight last week? Or the CNN Filipino who won the CNN Award of the Year? They did not say anything because they didn't see it. Even if they saw it, it just passed by. Okay. I was at the History of Natural American Museum in the U.S.
Yes?
I saw the bust of Theodore Roosevelt.
Okay.
And then I saw the bust of Alfred Nobel.
All right.
It was Theodore Roosevelt who won, the first American who won the Peace Prize.
Okay.
What Ms. Ang-See said about, we have to be involved. Peace must come from us first.
All right.
Okay, at any rate, what my good friend Rex mentioned is about two sides of a coin, how you interpret data. We are 9 in the world based on those reports. But then, how did they come up with those figures? Now let's go back to Maguindanao because I suggested to you that it should be one of the real topics either today or last Monday.
Okay.
I mentioned about the evil thing. I sent friends to my friends in the Roman Catholic Church, BCBP, etc. I hope that Pope Francis will tell the Filipinos and the world when he visits about what's happening here.
Okay.
Because we believe so much in the Pope. Some other people thought that, even in the States, Jerry, the Pope will not say something about it because it's martyrdom that introduced Christianity. Bullshit.
Yes, okay,
you know.
okay.
He doesn't
Easy,
know his
easy.
history.
Easy.
So, at
The
any
question
rate,
is-
Commander Rex, as a friend, I'd like you to expound further on that. What will, from your point of view, as a military strategist and as a BCB member like me, what do you think will the Pope say? Will he say something about the evil that's happening here, focus on the Philippines, about the high incidence of terrorism, killings, etc.?
Or will the report force him not to come? Yes, please.
The Pope will, I think, be very diplomatic about talking about the problems that we have. But here in this table, we do not have to be so hesitant to talk about it. So I'll go back to my theory, which is, kung ano yung hawak ng presidente, hatiin niya yun. Halimbawa, 1.2 billion. Ang proposal ko noon, it is in writing, and we gave it personally to President GMA. 600 million, ang 300 million noon, ibigay sa PNP at saka AFP. Pero ang PNP ngayon, mas malaki ang intelligence funds kaysa AFP. Kasi noon, nagkapalitan ng responsibility sa NPA, naiwan yung pera ng intelligence sa PNP, na umabot sila ng mga 200 plus million sa intelligence. At that time, do not know now. And then at that time, ang AFP was only about 100 million. So ang sabi ko noon, use the 300 million to equalize.
Okay.
Bigyan nyo yung 100 million sa PNP, 200 million sa... Kasi, for example lang, yung mga agents in the field natin, ang mga allowances nila, sa araw-araw, 1950 yung basis. Nung under surveillance ako, kaibigan ko naman yung mga nagsusurveillance sa akin, tinatawagan ako, Sir, wag kang pumunta sa Makati, hirap na hirap kami dyan. Bakit? Sir, nauubos kagad ang pera namin. Kahit naman sa McDonald's ka lang, hindi na namin kaya. Can you imagine? Just to surveil me, and I'm not even a danger to the, binabantayan ako. Sir, hindi namin kaya yung lugar dyan kasi kukunti lang ang pera namin. Hanggang ngayon, kung ano yung tinatanggap nila noong 1985, yun pa rin. So bakit natin, ang dami na ng mga magagaling na mga nag-intelligence, nag-AFP, ganun. Bakit ganun pa rin? Dagdagan natin.
Okay.
So kalahati noon, bigay natin, okay? May 300 million pa. Anong gagawin natin? Sabi ko, let us form a international counter-terrorist group that will have the capacity to coordinate with countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Korea, which are very strong, especially Malaysia, very strong on terrorism. So that, for instance, may sumabog dito. Titingnan yung mga naiwan, may mga Ilonggo kasi may mga bahagi, mga residue, o kaya may mga serial number. Itawag mo lang sa Malaysia, sabihin nila, ay, ano yan, stock yan, galing yan sa Middle East, yung ganun. Sabihin nila kaagad sa'yo.
Ganon, ha?
Ganun lang kadali.
Ganon kabilis.
Ganun kabilis kasi nag-establish ka. Pero you have to give that group the capacity to travel, to talk, to have the personality, and I suggested 300 million. Ang Malacanang nag-form din ng terrorist group, pero ang average age ng group na yun, mga around 65, 70 years old. Matatanda lahat ang nilagay nila doon, walang nangyari at hindi ko alam kung binigyan nila ng pera. Pero at that time, this was 2000 is
2000 something.
2006 something. Sinabi ko na yon. Nandun na nakasulat na, black and white, 300 million lang. Ang 300 million ngayon, pang ano lang sa tinga ni...
Napoles.
Hindi, ni Noynoy.
Ganun ba?
Noynoy plays
Akala ko
around.
kay Napoles.
300 million is just... Ganun lang yun.
Okay.
Para bang pangkati lang ng lalamunan yun eh. So, give 300 million, form that group, and strengthen kasi Malaysia has a dedicated anti-terrorist group that even, mayroon silang satellite tracings of ships that are traveling in the region kasi pag may mga terrorist na magkatulad doon sa Horn of Africa na ng ano ba yun, ng intercept, malalaman nila. They can tell you the history lahat. And don't let the Americans tell you that they don't have as they told me when I talked to them, that they don't have dedicated satellites. They have dedicated satellites here. Come on, ano ba naman yan? So they can tell us kung anong nangyayari dito sa area natin.
If they will tell us.
Which they will not.
And that is the problem. Okay.
Pero yun ang ibig ko sabihin na 1.2 billion is not really that big. Nagbayad tayo sa ano, yung central bank, nagbayad ng 30 billion yata. Oh.
Pagbabago ng
Alam mo
identity.
ba kung magkano rebate diyan sa 30 billion? Figure it out at 1.5%. Rebate. Rebate mo sa pag nagbayad ka.
Okay.
Kanino pupunta 'yon?
That is the question. Okay.
Oh, di ba? So, ibig sabihin, nagbayad sila ng malaki, wala. Anong epekto dito sa intelligence natin? And don't get me started about food supply. Because wala akong nakikita doon sa hundreds of billions na pera nila na nagpunta sa post-harvest facilities, sa farm-to-market roads, sa water supply. Wala. Oh,
Alright.
yun na lang.
Hindi na muna. Next topic yun. Yes,
Morning
please.
po. Rolly Samuntina po, DWBL. Kay kay Sir Dante Jimenez, saka kay Colonel po.
Go ahead.
Paano po mapipigilan ang mga pulis na dumarami na involved sa mga kriminalidad?
Okay. So, cleaning their ranks, ano? Dapat, yes please.
Thank you sa pansin or puna sa amin. Hindi po tumitigil ang liderato ng kapulisan sa paglinis sa aming mga hanay. Unang-una kasi ang laging binabanggit natin, masabi ko lang nung ako'y bagong tinyente noong 1980s, ang mga locom police noon, yung mga antigo mga sarhento, maski noon ma'am, sila nagsimula niya mga kidnapping. Yung mga talagang matatandang mga police. So, but you can look na pag sila ang gumawa ng kalokohan, mahirap matunton o malaman na gumagawa pa ng criminality itong mga matatandang pulis. Kasi talagang mga tahiban ba. These days, ang lahat ng nahuhuli mga pulis na gumagawa ng krimen, PO1 or PO2, mga bago. So,
Nabago yung trend.
bagong trend, bagong pulis eh. But basically, ito yung napansin ng mga policy makers natin sa PNP and over the years, nakita nila, it has to do with the recruitment system. So, doon tayo nagsimula ng pagbabago sa recruitment system. So, we had initiated changes there in the recruitment, including training. So, pagdating sa recruitment, some anomalies were uncovered and it was resolved. And pagdating sa training naman, yung training kasi minsan ay nagbabago din, nag-evolve. So from the usual na nagfo-focus tayo sa physical, yung brute strength, everything, nagbabago rin tayo ng training. So we are adapting to the changing times. So yun ang isang aspeto ng pagbabago sa kapulisan kung paano maiwasan ang mga pulis natin nagiging kriminal. So pagka naman naging pulis na at nandyan pa rin yung ating mga kapulisan na gumagawa ng illegal, ay nagiging strict tayo sa implementation ng ating batas laban sa mga kriminal na gumagawa ng mga pulis na naging kriminal. We have sufficient rules, laws against erring policemen. Ang amin lang gustong ipatupad is 100% dapat kung sinong pulis na nagkasala, 100% ang pataw na parusa, wala ring palakasan. So basically, we have enough policies and regulations to punish all erring policemen. So ang ginagawa na lang na ating liderato ay lahat ng mga nagkasala at na-dismiss, as much as possible, hindi na namin pinapabalik sa kapulisan yan. Kasi ang ginagawa ng iba, they are using the criminal justice system to overturn the initial findings. O talagang tumataas hanggang Supreme Court. Minsan may mga utos na pinababalik. So we try our best to really halt kung lahat na na-dismiss for cause, ay hindi na dapat makabalik. So, ang kapulisan, liderato ngayon ay talagang pilit na hindi lang nililinis ang hanay ng kapulisan, ay pilit ding huwag na makapasok ang mga aplikante sa pagpupulis kung hindi nila talaga pagpupulis ang kanilang nasa isip.
Opo, maraming salamat for the assurance. Dante, bago tayo magtungo kay General Tutaan about the armed forces naman.
Yeah, matagal na natin narinig lahat ng mga pagbabagong ginagawa sa law enforcement agencies. I-generalize ko na, hindi lang naman PNP. Pero ang observation namin, masyadong reactive ang ating mga agencies. Reactive. Hindi kayo proactive eh. And number two, dapat leadership by example. Okay, you mentioned about recruitment. Okay, kasi umpisa ka sa basic. Pero yung leadership by example, kung ang nasa taas ay corrupt, down the line yan, corrupt. Well, you see, I did not elaborate. This was discussed during the Senate deliberation of Senator Poe. Oh, now, inaano ko ngayon dito ay sa mga law enforcement agencies, dapat hinay-hinay lang sa corruption. Kasi ang yung mga rank and file nyo, hanggang PO1, susunod niyan. Sila ang gagawa na ng mag-gimmick, kanya-kanya katakot-takot na gimmikan. Kaya hindi magtataka tayo na maraming nasisibak na mga PO1 at saka sa military, yung mga first rank. Now, let's go organization. You have IAS and then NAPOLCOM, di ba? Sa IAS, I don't know if you could make that IAS independent from the Chief PNP. Pero siyempre, appointed, designated ng Chief PNP. Ang NAPOLCOM, hindi. Ito ay chaired by the Secretary of Interior and Local Government. So, pag-aralan din sana ito ng executive, paano to maging independent para yung from top to bottom pwede talagang ma-cleanse, and there should be really self-cleansing. Mag-self-cleansing dapat ang organization ang mga namumuno doon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Follow up lang,
Thanks,
sir.
sandali. Si General muna, sa armed forces naman. How do you clean your ranks?
Well, as of now, we have the AFP transformation roadmap. Okay, and it has its counterpart roadmaps in the Philippine Army, the Philippine Air Force, and the Philippine Navy. And there are civilian sectors who are part of these roadmaps, serving as advisors, critics, or a governance council, so to speak, to determine if the implementation of such is undertaken within yung program na ginawa natin as far as the transformation roadmap is concerned. But though the transformation roadmap has a vision for the future, it's a continuing effort on the values, core values of the AFP to include yung professionalization ng ranks namin in terms of adherence to the rule of law, adherence to as soldiers into the international humanitarian law, and yung ating aspects as far as discipline, accountability, and responsibility of actions or inactions on certain incidents na may nangyayari. And yung paggawa rin ng efforts in order to keep the soldier informed through our various means. Andyan yung troop information and education, andyan yung civil military operations namin involving soldiers and civilian communities in a forum, in a workshop, in a seminar for a common goal of transforming not only the attitude, the professionalization, but also on the discipline and core values natin ng atin. In fact, just recently there was a MOA inked by signed by the Chief of Staff and the Ombudsman for the military and other law enforcement operations offices, wherein cases brought to the Ombudsman are acted jointly, not only because of the Ombudsman, but that MOA will probably hasten the investigation or the resolution of cases filed before the Ombudsman as far as soldiers are concerned on that.
Opo.
Siguro yung strike 3 na rule, na policy, should not be ningaskugon. Secretary Rojas sacked 4 out of the 5 district commanders. First time nangyari yan, no? But
not to say naman that the four are involved. They are not. Ano? Among them are really good ones. No? It's unfortunate. Kaso, dun sa bailiwick nila, nangyari yung heinous crimes talaga na sunod-sunod. So, dapat to keep them on their toes also, yung ini-impose itong pag tatlong malalaking kaso na involve yung buong district mo, the commander has dapat sana automatic na mag-resign sila para wala ng kahiyaan. Kasi command responsibility yan I'm sad that out of the four, kasi meron naman talagang magaling sa kanila, but then they have to take the command responsibility that these things happen in their bailiwick. No? And it's good that accountability, responsibility, it's good that Secretary Rojas said, I meant business, so all four of you are out. No? So there are new ones. They are still being tried. Pero yung Manila Police, kapapalit pa lang, ang dami na agad na nangyari. So keep them on their toes, no? Na wag na sana mag-strike 2, strike 3, and keep that policy, enforce that policy always, no? Para wala nang kahiyaan, and do something talaga na maiayos natin, kasi the first people to suffer will be the community pag hindi maayos yung nasa itaas ng accountability nila.
Thank you very much. Follow, yes, General.
Melo, if I may lang, very quickly, I hope, yung question mo kanina about technology, yung on law enforcement and probably kasi let's not have the misnomer na porket may maganda kang technology, it's outrightly you will solve the crimes. What I'm trying to say here is like, ang technology kasi begets data. Hindi mo magagamit yung iPhone, yung cellphone kung wala kang phone numbers dyan, wala kang applications na nalagay dyan and everything. What I'm trying to say is, okay, kahit babaran mo ng CCTV lahat ng buong Metro Manila, all you can get is the pictures, but you cannot relate an identity. Even if you have the best forensic examination that you can lift all the fingerprints that you want, but if you don't have the data on the fingerprints, hindi mo rin makakakuha ka ng identity. So, technology, baka kasi mamaya ang isipin na naman ng tao, nagbigay na ng pera for technology, tapos wala pa rin nangyayari ganun daw. It's not a 100% thing. The things that you see in TV, as far as data, electronics, I don't know if that's director-oriented or directed generated. But the thing is, when we enhance our technology as far as, we have to commensurate it with the enhancement of data that you have. Okay. Now, on that, I am not insinuating anything, but people should know also na ganun din dapat yon. You may have the best type of cellphone or notepad na naandyan, pero pag hindi mo linagyan yan ng application, all it becomes is a video game apparatus na kwento. So, kailangan din may karugtong yan na ganyan. And the understanding of it. Ngayon, kung hindi tayo papayag for that data to be stored there, then wala rin mangyayari.
Okay.
Di ba? Hindi rin natin malalagay yung identity, hindi rin natin malalagay yung ating biometrics matters on that na can solve or something like that.
Saka bibili tayo ng programs na lihitimo at hindi yung pinirata.
Oh, yes, of course. Rule of law also will have to be is without question on that. We have to follow the rule of law on that.
Hindi po natin sinasabi na nangyayari yan. Pero kung nangyayari man, sir, sa tulong nyo, pwede nyong parating sa amin. Isulat nyo sino yung pangalan na nagbibigay ng pera. Kung talagang nangyayari yan. And we will always welcome those reports and we will investigate it para makatulong sa ating recruitment.
Katulad po nung sabungan sa Angat Bulacan, kahapon tinawag sa akin, ang maintainer, police. May droga pa.
Easy.
Sir, isulat niyo po yun at iimbestigahan natin kung legal yung kanyang pag-aari doon.
Okay. All right.
Yes, sir.
Next, tawag mo sa 117. Wala na sagot. I-text mo sa to9
Out of order.
Yes, please.
At para sa pulis po, isa lang po.
Pakilala ka muna.
Pat Santos from Tribune, Daily Tribune po. Nakikita po natin sa kalsada at yung bilang ng mga pulis na naka-assign, kunwari Western, ito Manila. Pero sa katotohanan po, nakikita mo talagang napakaliit lang ng presensya ng tao. Parang parang may pagkakasabuatan na iba pumapasok, iba hindi. Ako sa tagal ko nagko-cover sa police. Ayoko lang tanungin eh. Napaka-sensitive nung yung iba nagmo-moonlight and Meron po ba tayong pag-aaral tungkol po dyan sa mga ganyang kaso?
So yun talagang actual presence ng police sa kanilang duty.
Opo.
Okay. Yes, please.
Kuya, ang sinasabi mo ay police presence. Mukhang hindi nararamdaman yung presensya, no? So yun po ang inyong perception dito, lalong-lalo sa Metro Manila. Unang-una, yung perception nyo, minsan totoo yan na talagang kulang sa pulis sa kalsada. Minsan wala kayong makita. Lalo ngayong Kapaskuhan, maraming pupunta dyan sa Divisoria, sa Tutuban.
Yun namimili po yan, hindi
namimili.
pulis. Ha?
Hindi po pulis yan. So ngayon, ang iniisip nyo, parang walang pulis, parang kulang ang pulis. Hindi po lingid sa kaalaman ng PNP yan. Kaya ang nagiging programa ng PNP is to recruit more. Ang sinasabi nga ng ating liderato sa PNP, talagang gusto naming mag-recruit na marami. Bakit hindi naman namin sinasabi na ayaw namin? We want to recruit more. Kaya lang, nagiging issue rin yung quality recruitment na nabanggit ko kanina. So we are in need of additional 10,000 pero hindi mo naman ma-recruit agad-agad yung 10,000 kasi may proseso kaming gusto masunod para naman yung mga ma-recruit namin ay hindi magiging kriminal.
Okay.
That's number one. Number two solution to that is the move of our leadership to put more policemen in the streets. Ito yung sinasabi natin na pagbabawas na mga kapulisan sa headquarters, na banggit ni Ma'am Tessie kanina. Doon sa NHQ, sa Camp Crame, may mga trabahong pulis na na-take over ng mga security guard at yung mga pulis na nawalan ng trabaho sa pagbabantay sa non-sensitive area sa Crame, ibababa sa Metro Manila na para maging karagdagan sa ating police presence. Pangalawa, pagdating ng peak seasons or holiday na talagang dumadaming ating mga kababayan sa commercial areas, ito yung on a temporary basis, yung mga pulis natin sa headquarters, not only in Camp Crame but all district headquarters, ay ibinababa natin sa kalsada on a temporary basis pagka kinakailangan itong dumadami ang ating mga kababayan sa mga commercial areas. So ito mga inyong perception or puna na minsan walang pulis, kulang sa pulis siguro, ito ang ating nagiging move sa PNP para ang pulis natin sa kalsada ay makita at dumami. Ayun po ang ating practice doon. Salamat.
Pero Colonel, speaking of security guards manning the gates of Camp Crame, hindi ba security risk yun? Dahil minsan nga may pulis ka ng Iskalawag, security guard pa kaya?
Hindi naman po, no? Hindi ko mo security guard yung naandun sa gate natin, ay sila na lahat na namamahala. They are being supervised by police personnel. So, sabihin natin from the usual, at one time, sa 3 shifts, from the usual 4 policemen manning the gates, siguro ngayon ay isa na lang, isang supervisor na lang. So, ang nagiging trabaho naman ng mga security guards natin sa Camp Crame, they are taking over non-sensitive areas or even functions. Yung mga sensitive functions ng mga ating mga pulis sa Crame na nagbabantay, kagaya ng pagbabantay sa detention centers, pulis pa rin ang may responsibilidad doon. So, ang mga security guard na naandun ay yung mga non-sensitive, pagbantay sa gate, sa main entrance ng office, naandun, na hindi po sensitibong tinuturing.
Okay. Bago po kayo dumating kanina, pinag-usapan namin ni na General at ni na Tess, yung tungkol sa traffic at yung kawalan ng civic concern ng mga motorista at ng mga pasahero at ng mga pedestrian. Do we have a concrete program to make these drivers of armored vans to follow traffic rules and regulations? Because they do wanton violations sa ating mga lansangan.
Tama po yun, kasi maski ako, napapansin ko yan, maski ako nagagalit ako minsan, kaya lang siyempre sa edad ko to, saka sa posisyon ko, hindi mo na makuhang makipagsigawan pa sa galit mo na sa mga armored vans natin, they really violate traffic violations. Ganun na lang blatantly. Napag-uusapan po ito sa monthly meeting ng JABRAC. Ito yung Joint Anti-Bank Robbery Action Council na I think pinamumunuan ng PNP. Minsan umiikot yung pagiging president niya ng JABRAC. At laging pinapansin yung kanilang armored vehicles na hindi sumusunod sa batas trapiko.
Opo.
At I'm not really sure of the specific regulations concerning them. Ang sinasabi kasi nila ay madalas sila nagiging victims ng robbery, yung mga vans nila. Pero ibig sabihin, hindi naman common na sa kalsada, doon na hino-hold up. Madalas, ang mga armored van, hino-hold up pag naando na sa bangko na kumukuha ng pera o nando sa commercial establishment, nagsasakay ng pera. Hindi naman sila hino-hold up sa kalsada.
Precisely.
Yes. So, ito pa yung napag-uusapan sa JABRAC at isa sa issue na nirereklamo ng committee members sa kanilang counterpart, itong mga bank personnel. So, I'm sure this issue is being addressed. I'm not really sure now kung ano ang mga nagiging sanctions kung sakasakali or sila man ay sumusunod sa mga pinag-usapan sa JABRAC.
Opo, mabuti na babanggit yan. At least mapag-usapan din natin sa susunod.
Tatanong na ako. Earlier, sinabi niya yung, everybody, one of us, gusto naman natin tuparin ang ating tungkulin. And nasabi nga ni Ma'am Teresita Ang-See na it needs involvement of everyone. Ang gusto, I just want a comment from the gentleman and from the lady. Before, kasi siguro familiar kayo na sa IACAT, Interagency Council for Anti-Trafficking. It's very effective now kasi dati, yung police, re-raiding yung club or establishment. Tapos, titirahin ng CIDG, titirahin ng NBI. Lahat na lang ng law enforcement agency, titirahin yun para kumita sila. Ngayon, they cannot simply do that because ang move ng operations ng anti-trafficking, it has to be a group. Yung IACAT nga, it has to pass through that. Kaya medyo tumino yung trabaho. So, anong take ninyo para tumino yung pagtupad natin sa tungkulin?
Okay. Takers, anong paraan para tumino sa pagtupad sa tungkulin? May incentives po ba? Do we have incentives for people who do their job beyond the call of duty? Ganun yan, no?
Actually, hindi mo masabing incentive eh. Disincentive ang sasabihin ko dyan. Napakalinaw na ang lahat ng public officers or policemen for this matter is lahat ng hindi tutupad sa tungkulin, lalong-lalo ilalabag, ay mapaparusahan. Ganun lang po kasimple. So, we don't talk here of incentives for public servants. We are expected to be dishing out public service. We are expected to be doing our jobs. Kaya kung meron mang sinasabing gagawin namin para hindi maulit to, ang lahat ng lalabag sa polisiya ng PNP ay kinakasuhan at kakasuhan kung sino man lalabag. Yun po ang aming patakaran dyan. Wala pong patumpik-tumpik.
Thank you. Colonel Padilla.
Nais ko lang hong ipabatid sa lahat na ang pinakamalakas na paraan ng pagbibigay ng motivation o ng recognition sa mga public servants natin ay dapat nanggagaling sa public mismo, sa kababayan natin. So, along that line, nais ko hong malaman nyo na madami hong mga organisasyon tulad ng Metro Bank, ng Hero Foundation, ng ano po sila iba? Ng Rotary Club, ng iba-ibang Rotary Club ng buong bansa na nagbibigay ng recognition sa mga public servants na gumaganap ng kanilang tungkulin ng tapat. So, meron din hong binibigay na incentive ang ating gobyerno sa pamamagitan ng Gawad Awards para nanggagaling sa civil service. So, nagbibigay recognition yan sa mga miyembro ng gobyerno na talagang tanyag ang kanilang pagiging pagtupad sa tungkulin. Yung Catholic Mass yung Catholic Church, may media award yan sa inyo, di ba? Ganun din, yun lang ho ang in-encourage namin. Kung gusto nyo magkaroon ng tapat na public service, tulungan yan eh.
I-recognize nyo rin.
I-recognize nyo, ibalita nyo sa media para lahat ng ating mga kababayan nababasa na ang kapulisan, ang kusandaluhan, may matitinong tao na ganito ang ginagawa. Di ba tulad ng nangyayari ngayon sa mga airports natin, yung recognition ng nagsusoli ng mga naiiwan na pera, gagamitan,
Opo.
mismong janitress sa mga public comfort rooms. Karamihan dyan, hindi ho yan permanenteng empleyado. Mga ano lang yan, contractual na service. Pero ganun pa man din, contractual man sila, makikita nyo na kakaunti na nga ang sweldo, pero meron silang integrity. Meron silang kabuuan ng loob na gampanan ng damang asal na pagsoli sa mga nakikita nilang gamit. Yan ho, pagka araw-araw nating ginagawa, at kung maaari, ito, appeal lang ho sa inyo, mas maganda hong hina-highlight natin sa front page natin yung positive kaysa yung negative. Kung masanay ho ang mindset ng ating kababayan na ang una nilang binabasa ay positive, magkakaroon ho ng effect na mas maganda yung gagawing asal ng karamihan. So, yun lang po. So, tulungan po tayo. Hindi ho critic lang. Kasi karamihan, ang Pilipinas nakikita ko, karamihan ng kababayan natin, i-blame lahat sa presidente ang kamalian ng buong gobyerno, kaya sa head ng agency.
Hindi, yung ibang kilala ko, ang sinisisi yung PICOS hindi yung presidente. But that's another case.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Patrick Pineda. I'm involved in agriculture and environment, but I like the discussion simply because what we're talking here is peace and order. May kasabihan po, without peace, there is no development. And if there's no development, there's no peace. So I guess that's the reason why my being in the field of agriculture is related to this. I would second Miss C and also General Tutaan regarding the balancing of technology with social mobilization or people's involvement and mobilization. Because you cannot, my classic example here is the Vietnam War. As you know, in that war, the Americans fought the Vietnamese with all the most sophisticated technology that you can imagine, from B-52 to aircraft carrier to Phantom jet, etc. While the Viet Cong were fighting it with an appropriate technology. But I think ultimately the question is who won the war. And it was the Vietnamese who won the war. Why? Because of the human factor. It was not technology. The human factor, of course, is that the Viet Cong were able to convince their people that this is a war against involving heart, mind, soul, and spirit. Yeah. And I believe that fighting crime is similar to, in fact, in the field of agriculture, it's also what we're saying. It's not the technology per se, but the how you mobilize the people. Now, I work with the city of Parañaque for quite some time, and I developed what is known as Moses technology. Moses technology,
Yes, sir. What's the question? We're pressed for time.
Well, the question is if we can break the population of, let's say, 600,000 population into a family of 5, that's 100,000 family. For us to be able to handle them, it's still too tough. What we did is to break them down into 25, what we called environmental platoon, and we came up with 4,200 platoons. If we can duplicate this in the street level, 25 families constituting a platoon, we can have all sort of things from fighting environment, basura, to intelligence, to drug, and to the police work. Sabi ko, yung pasaway ba naman tatawagin pa niyo yung police? Arnis lang ang kailangan dyan Huwag lang kayo magpapakita. No?
Yes,
so
sir.
in other words, I seconded Ms. C and General Tutaan and also the others involved that please do not forget the people's participation. They're still the backbone of any fight against anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And in the tradition of Senator Kiko Pangilinan, noted. Yes. Linggoy, may tanong ka, alam ko, kanina ka pa naka-forma dyan Linggoy Alcuas of Opinion.
Magandang umaga po, Linggoy ng Opinion. Marami po ang tanong ko. Okay.
Baka pwede mo i-summarize. Baka abutin tayong tanghalian dito.
Hindi, ang unang tanong po, ganito po, address po ito sa
Hanggang alas 11 lang daw tayo.
Sa PNP. May 5 minutes tayo. Sa PNP. Every time na meron pong resource person na taga PNP na halimbawa NCR or district or station, tinatanong ko po doon sa commander kung sa kanyang jurisdiction ilan po ang force multiplier na security guards or number 2, yung po mga traffic enforcers ng LGU. 9 out of 10, hindi po masagot. Ang nasasagot po nila, yung national figure kung ilan po ang security guards. Yung pong bawat city or bawat municipality or sa distrito ng syudad or sa teritoryo ng presinto, hindi po masagot. Kung ganun po, kung hindi po alam ng commander, hindi ba yan po ay nagpapakita na hindi sila sincere sa pagmumultiply ng kanilang puwersa? Kasi instead of multiplication, maaaring ang tingin ng commander ay division. Naintindihan nyo kung ano ibig sabihin division? Ibig sabihin, yung kita, matidivide pag sama-sama.
Okay,
So gusto
okay ka rin,
nilang
ha?
solohin. So yun ang tanong ko sa
sa police.
kinagawa ng police.
Okay. Force multipliers. I'd like to remind everybody we only have one forum here. Thank you.
Kalinggoy, if I may call you that. Hindi ko sisisihin yung commander kung hindi niya alam. Basically, but he should have a rough estimate of how much or how many traffic enforcers he have or force multiplier in his jurisdiction. But kung talagang hindi niya alam totally, talagang wala sigurong pakialam, hindi sincere. But if he doesn't know the exact number, but he, however, knows the estimate, I can accept that. So basically, if I was the commander, let's say in Manila, I was officer in charge for a brief time there. Ang security guard kasi doon sa krami, ang sinasabi natin, lahat ng security guard force multiplier. That's the ideal. But the realistic happening on the ground is ang security guard kasi inaasahan natin na ang pagiging force multiplier nila is for them to feed us information or they should serve as listening post. Ang tawag namin listening post. So mag-feed sila ng information to the PNP or AFP on matters that affects peace and order. Pero bibihira o iilan lang gumagawa niyan. Bakit? Kasi bakit sila mag-aabalang mag-text kung hindi naman natin binibigyan ng pan-text? Bakit sila mag-aabalang mag-report kung kinakailan tumawag sa landline at makamasitan ng kanilang mga boss? Doon sa pinagbabantayan nila. So realistically, we really do not expect much from the security guards or from the security agencies when it comes to reporting crimes, lalong-lalo na pag hindi sila ang involved. Doon sa ating other stakeholders for, let's say, yung barangay at police, action teams, yun meron po tayong specific numbers dyan. Ang ating ginagamit dyan sa barangays or dito sa Metro Manila, yung mga barangay tanods or barangay officials. So meron tayong specific numbers. So for every barangay, meron tayong mga bilang na mga stakeholders na sinasama sa ating kabuuan ng stakeholders. So, dapat ang mga commander, meron silang numero dyan for every barangay. Yan po ang ating sagot dyan.
Second question. May minute pa.
Sige.
Tungkol sa police presence. Una-una, disclosure. Ako po'y hindi lamang columnist na opinion. Ako po'y nasa PIO ng City of Manila. Ngayon, ganito po ang akin. Nung si dating Pangulo Erap ay kandidato pa lang for Mayor of Maynila, every time na may nakikita akong pulis ng Maynila sa forum, kine-question ko yung police presence ng Manila Police as compared sa police presence ng Quezon City Police. Now remember, yung population ng Manila at Quezon City halos pareho. Yung police force halos pareho. Pero
Mas
yung
malaki yung area.
ng Quezon City, 4 or 5 times bigger. Ngayon, so ang tanong ko, bakit ang Maynila na hindi kailangan ng mobile patrol car para magkaroon ng police presence, samantalang sa Quezon City, kailangan may mobile patrol car. Dahil kung lalakarin nyo yung Quezon City, medyo malayo. Bakit po napakahina ng police presence sa Maynila, lalong-lalo na po yung forgotten corner of Maynila. Ito po yung area ng Kalentong, coming from Shaw Boulevard, merong boundary ang Mandaluyong at Manila. Isang araw, nung nag-call yung bagong district commander, si Colonel Nana, at dala niya lahat yung station commander, at nandun sila sa waiting room ni Mayor Erap, tinanong ko, kanino po itong teritoryo? At nagtuturoan yung dalawang presinto, yung Santa Mesa at yung Santa Ana.
Naku.
So finally, inamin ng Santa Ana,
Akin yan.
kanya yun. Ngayon, reneklamo ko yun kay Colonel Nana, kay Colonel Gilbert Cruz, sa dalawang station commander. Every week, dumadaan ako once or twice doon. Wala pong presence ng PNP, wala pong presence ng Manila Traffic and Parking Bureau.
Doon sa Panaderos to, no?
Yung
Sa may Petron, na may tulay.
yung Punta Santana.
Punta Santana.
Lalo na, abusado po doon yung mga jeepney.
Mga barker. Okay. Noted. All right, let me ask our friends here before we say thank you to everyone. General Tutaan and Colonel Po, yesterday was the Maguindanao Massacre anniversary, if you may. Are you not alarmed by the number of loose firearms in Metro Manila and the provinces? And why is it that political clans always, try to shape what's happening in the provinces? The Maguindanao Massacre happened because a clan was against another clan. But the media was invited by the other political clan and they got ambushed. But the question is, teka muna, saan galing yung pera? Saan galing yung baril? Saan galing yung lakas ng loob? General, please. Sa pulis muna tayo. Sa pulis muna.
Sa firearms kasi, hindi lingid sa kaalaman natin, meron tayong bagong batas, Republic Act 10591. Ito yung the New Firearms and Ammunitions Comprehensive Act na maraming nagrereklamo at bakit daw very tedious ang process. Ang dahilan dito ay kung titingnan natin, we have at least 530,000 firearms which were unregistered way back 2-3 years ago or even way back 15 years ago. Hindi nawawala yung specific number, 500,000 plus na unre-registered. Ito yung mga baril na nalisensyahan noon na hindi na na-renew for the last 15 years. Hindi bumababa sa 500,000 plus yan. So ang predicament ng firearms noon or the PNP is paano matanggal sa record natin yan para manlinis. So hindi mo pwede linisin yan. Permanent record yan. So for the last 15 years, yung ang sinasabi natin, hindi na-register yan. So what are the chances that these are already loose firearm? So ngayon, fast forward tayo ngayon. Ngayon, nagkaroon tayo ng Oplan Katok for the last 2 years. Ang Oplan Katok na yan ay ang purpose niyan, itong 500,000 plus na unregistered ay kinakatok natin yung mga may-ari para i-register na nila. Okay. So, nagsimula tayo sa Oplan Katok, I think, 2013. And as of this date, yung target natin na baril na 532,000. And now, ang nag-register sa 532,000 ay nasa 139,000. So 139,000. Ang on-process ay 11,000. So basically, we have 150,000 firearms na on the process of being renewed. Okay, sa bagong batas natin. Ngayon, kinatok. Ngayon.
Kinatok kayo, ha?
kung 150,000 lang ang nai-renew out of this 530,000, nasaan yung mahigit 400,000? Doon sa Oplan Katok, lumalabas na may mga dahilan kung bakit hindi na i-renew. Ang mga ilan sa dahilan ay yung may-ari ng barel hindi na nakatira, or yung nakalagay sa address natin sa database, walang tao o walang address na gano'n. That's one reason. Ang isang reason din ay walang taong, andun yung address pero walang taong nagmamayaring gano'n.
At ganun ang pangalan.
Okay. Meron din dahilan na lumipat na ng bahay. Meron din dahilan na namatay na yung may-ari. Meron din dahilan na fictitious pareho lahat. So, these are reasons na 400,000 reasons na hindi mo na ma-recover yung barel. Kaya, ang assessment namin, the loose firearm now, na nagsisirculate sa ating bansa, they started as legal firearms. So, kung sasabihin natin, paano yung dinaan sa smuggling, etc., these are only very minimal numbers.
So, yung long firearms?
Ang long firearms, kasama dyan sa ating Oplan Katok. So, ibig sabihin, doon sa 400,000 na hindi pa nare-renew, kasama ang high-powered rifles, na ngayon ang description natin ay light weapons na sa bagong batas. So yung dating high-powered rifles, high-powered firearms, sa description ng bagong batas, they are already called light weapons. So kasama yan light weapons sa hindi na i-renew. So ang lahat ng loose firearms, no, hindi lahat, majority of our loose firearms now started as legal firearms.
Okay.
Ngayon, sa bagong batas natin, 10591, yung tinatawag nating high-powered rifles or light weapons, pwede pa bang bilhin ng kung sino? Hindi na. Ang pwede na lang bumili ng light weapons or the so-called high-powered rifles ay PNP, AFP, and other government agencies authorized by the President. So madaling sabi, ikaw, ako bilang individual or security agencies cannot purchase light weapons anymore. They cannot own light weapons anymore. So, naghigpit ang batas natin. So, yung mga ginagamit sa mga krimen or syndicated crime groups, yung mga high-powered, hindi na basta nakakabili ang sino man. PNP, AFP, and those authorized by the President can only buy that. So, naghigpit tayo. So, ngayon, ang nangyayari ngayon, pati yung paglilisensya ng baril ngayon ay kinakailangan yung bibili, pati yung magre-renew, ay magkaroon ng litrato sa FEO, regional offices, na siya mismo ang nag-a-apply. So masigurado natin ngayon na lahat na magmamayari ng baril ay totoong tao, totoong siya ang nagmamayari at totoo yung address niya. We are making sure that the ownership of firearms now is a responsibility.
Okay.
Is a responsibility. Yun po ang address natin. So ngayon, ang estimate natin ngayon sa loose firearms na hindi na i-register ay nasa mga 400,000 plus based on our statistics na hindi na i-renew. On those firearms that were never re-registered or hindi nagkaroon ng lisensya o maski minsan na nasa kamay ng mga
Sindikato.
MNLF, BIF, I think the AFP can answer that appropriately. Yung nasa hawak ng mga dating secessionist groups.
Okay.
Thank you.
General.
Actually, that's the basis of our yung ating Republic Act on the loose firearms. May study yan na yung ating study on the loose firearms after the Maguindanao massacre. And pinag-iigting natin yung ating efforts dyan against this. And that's one good thing na yan na nagagamit namin as a matter of filing cases, especially on armed groups with possession of loose firearms.
Okay.
Isa dyan, ang isang maganda dyan, is yan ang ginagamit natin na basihan din in the file of cases na sinasabi ko, and also in the propagation of illegal activity. So, ganun pa rin, coordination pa rin kami sa PNP regarding that because yung sa loose firearms matter na yan.
Okay. Is the Pope safe to visit the Philippines?
Yes. The efforts are primarily with the Philippine National Police, but we are in coordination with this.
Okay.
Okay. On the, I think we have to have a framework of mind, not on delikado ba yung Pope. Ang Filipino, sabi nga ni Colonel Po kanina, is basically friendly. Let's have this. We are parang why are we contesting if we are, why are we in the doubt on the matter of the press, the arrival of the Pope as far as the security is concerned? We have announced, the PNP and the AFP has announced already the many coordinations that we have as far as this is concerned, and yet we still doubtful. I'm sorry, but is this a matter na kailangan i-hype natin for a news item? If I may throw back the question with all candor and respect, bakit ganun po ang tanong natin parati on the matter of that?
Okay.
Although we are instituting all the necessary security procedures on this, and we are preparing ourselves not only in terms of the personnel, the equipage, but also in the coordination for the itinerary of the Pope, kung saan siya pupunta, and everything on that.
Yeah.
It was said 4 to 6 million will welcome the Pope, and on that. So there are 4 to 6 million Filipinos who will welcome the Pope, will be there to see him, His Holiness, as far as his visit is concerned, and be part of what is the intention of the visit, and not to put a threat on him.
The reason is being asked often is because of Oplan Bujinka in 1995. And we're very much aware of what happened.
Yes.
Okay. One last, bago tayo magpaalaman. Ligtas na po ba yung mga sundalo sa Ebola na dinalaw ni future Senator Garin?
The thing is, we have to have a good understanding of all of this. I don't know. I came out, Melo, 3 to 4 times in a press con explaining this. None of them came out.
Huh?
Oh, yes. I explained what are the procedures. Ako mismo ang nag-procedure. I even asked reporters from the networks. I already made a press con on that. Now, eto ngayon yung statement na ng WHO on the matter. You could surf the net on what's on that Ebola thing as far as use of personal protection equipment. I'm not gonna hype on them. May nagsasabi pa nga dyan, dahil pumunta sila doon sa Caballo Island na yan, they should be quarantined for 30 days. Sandali, 21 days lang ang ating...
Dinagdagan na.
The point is, let's have a clear understanding and clear knowledge of the facts about this. Sabi ng isang question sa akin ng isang one from the friends from the media, Sir, bakit hindi na lang natin dalhin yung pamilya doon? Okay, quarantine per se is to control the environment that our peacekeepers are in, so that in case of any eventualities, it is very easy to control kung saan siya na-expose.
Okay.
Dalhin mo ang pamilya dyan, hindi mo matatanggal dyan na magkahalikan yan, yung mga anak and everything. Okay. Ako kunyari, Melo, ang peacekeeper. Dahil sa insisting na dalhin na yung pamilya ko, dinala na yung anak ko. Ginakap ko yung anak ko, pinaghahalikan ko, ganun. Kaklase ng anak mo. Sa eskwelahan. Kasi papasok yan pagkatapos. Mahirap na i-control yung environment.
Okay.
So yung pumunta doon ng ating Chief of Staff and our Acting Secretary for Health, were all within the procedures needed.
Okay.
Some might contest it, that's fine. But the thing is, what are the facts? The WHO already issued a statement on this. So I think that's... Kasi sabi noon, bakit DOH, ganun, may ganyan. Bakit hindi natin tanungin ang WHO? Naglabas na ang statement ng WHO on the matter. So, yun
Were they really quarantined before they flew out of Monrovia?
They were given the Ebola screening test. And they
Yes.
were, so to speak, in terms of a quarantine, kasi hindi naman quarantine na, kasi they are in a headquarters that control yung environment.
Oh yeah, precisely.
Kasi ang isip ng ibang tao, quarantine and isolation is the same. It's not.
No, it's not. Definitely.
Okay, it's not. But the thing is, it's interpreted to be that way, especially in commentaries.
Yeah. When people have limited vocabulary, talagang ganun yun.
That's why the best thing is seek the information, seek the fact, para at least alam natin kung ano yung sasabihin natin.
Opo.
In defense to whatever is being undertaken, this is done in a controlled manner within the procedures na sinunod natin. Now, whatever is thought otherwise of that is, I respect their opinion on the matter, but these are opinions, not on facts.
Okay. Thank you very much, mga kaibigan. With that, we bring to a close another edition of Tapatan sa Aristocrat. We'd like to thank everyone who came over at yung mga kasama natin sa media na umalis na kanina at may mga coverage pa. Thank you very much sa lahat.